My name is Dr. William Parker. I spent over 4 decades practicing medicine, standing beside countless patients as they faced the inevitable questions we all carry deep inside. Now retired, with silver hair and a quieter life, I've found myself reflecting more than ever. Not about diseases or surgeries, but about life itself and what it means when we start running out of time. You see, something strange happens after you turn 70. The world begins to look different. Every morning you wake up, there's a subtle tension in the air. You start to wonder, how many more of these mornings do I truly have left? How many sunrises before it's all over? I've looked into the eyes of men and women who sat across from me in my office, their faces etched with the same silent terror. Am I running out of time? Some whispered the question, others never dared to say it aloud. But it was always there, hanging heavily in the room between us. The brutal truth is this: after 70, you're not playing with house money anymore. You've entered a stage of life where every year feels borrowed. Every heartbeat becomes precious. And yet most people wander through these years clinging to dangerous illusions. They think, I feel okay today. I'm not in a hospital. My numbers aren't too bad. But beneath the surface, their bodies may already be whispering secrets that only a trained eye can hear. I want you to stop for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine yourself 5 years from now. Are you still walking confidently? Are your hands still steady? Do you still sleep deeply, wake refreshed, and eat with a healthy appetite? Or have you become like so many I've treated, weaker, slower, more fragile, quietly slipping toward the edge without even noticing? This is the terrifying part. The slow decline doesn't scream, it whispers. It starts so softly you don't even know it's happening. A stumble here, a weak grip there, a few restless nights, a smaller appetite, a growing tendency to isolate yourself. These are not harmless inconveniences. They are warnings. Like cracks forming in a dam, each small sign signals deeper trouble beneath. And let me be absolutely clear, waiting until you feel sick is often too late. Many of my patients waited. They ignored the signals. They believed if they weren't in pain, they were fine. And by the time they sat in my office, the damage had already stacked against them like a silent assassin working in the background for years. I've come to believe that most people die long before they're buried. Their bodies weaken slowly, their minds fog, and their independence erodes inch by inch, until one day they wake up imprisoned inside a failing body they can no longer control. But here's the secret that modern science has taught us, and the reason I've made this video for you today. Your body speaks long before it breaks. It sends out early signals, subtle but powerful markers that can predict how long you will likely live after 70. These are not guesses, they're not myths. They are real, measurable, and scientifically validated patterns observed in thousands of seniors who either thrived or declined. Throughout my career, I studied these patterns, and what I found still gives me chills. Some of the strongest predictors of longevity are not locked inside your genetics or hidden in your medical charts. Instead, they hide in plain sight. Inside your balance, your grip strength, your walking pace, your sleep, your appetite, your stress response, and your social connections. Today, I'm going to walk you through each of these 7 silent signs. Not to scare you, but to give you the truth that too many doctors don't explain until it's too late. Because if you recognize these signs early, you can still take action. You can still add years, not just to your life, but to the quality of your life. But I must warn you, some of these signs may shock you. They might force you to confront uncomfortable truths about your own health. And that's exactly why you must stay with me until the end. Because I promise you, once you hear them all, you'll never look at your aging body the same way again. And more importantly, you'll know exactly what you can start doing today to fight back. Before we dive in, I want to ask for your support. This channel is my small way of continuing my life's work even in retirement. If you find value in the knowledge I'm about to share, please subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, and help me spread these life-saving insights to others who desperately need them. Every subscription allows me to keep creating these important lessons for those who may have no one else telling them the truth. Now, before we continue, let me challenge you to reflect for just a moment. Here's a simple question, one that has haunted many of my patients. If you had to guess honestly, right now, which category do you fall into? A. Feel strong, balanced, and fully independent. B. I have noticed subtle declines in balance, strength, sleep, or energy, but I've ignored them so far. Write your answer below in the comments. Just type A or B. And let's see how many of us are brave enough to face these truths together. You might be surprised by how many people share your answer. Now, let's begin. As we move deeper into this journey together, allow me to share something that has haunted me throughout my years in practice. When my patients crossed the threshold of 70, I began looking at them through a very particular lens. Not out of morbid curiosity, but because after all those years of experience, I learned that certain physical signs that often seemed harmless or trivial could quietly predict how many years they might have left. And more importantly, how much dignity and independence would remain in those years. The first of these signs is balance. Now, most people rarely think about balance until it's already gone. But I can tell you from years of examining frail bodies and frightened eyes that balance is one of the earliest and most revealing predictors of decline. In my office, I've watched proud men who once stood like oak trees suddenly stumble as they tried to stand on one foot for just 10 seconds. Their knees would tremble. Their arms would instinctively reach for my desk or my shoulder. And in that single moment, I could see their future whispering in front of them. Because balance isn't just about strong legs, it's a perfect harmony between your muscles, your nervous system, your brain, and your sense of spatial awareness. When that harmony weakens, it signals that several vital systems may already be deteriorating together. I remember Carol, one of my patients, a retired schoolteacher in her early 70s. Every morning she would practice yoga, standing tall, lifting one leg gracefully as she closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Her posture was steady, her muscles responsive. Her nervous system was still sharp, like a fine-tuned instrument. And then there was Nancy, about the same age, who came into my office one afternoon complaining that she felt just a little clumsy lately. When I asked her to try standing on one foot, she barely managed 2 seconds before losing her balance. She laughed nervously, brushing it off as aging, but I didn't laugh. Because behind her stumble was a cascade of risks: falls, broken bones, head injuries, cognitive decline. What begins as a minor inconvenience can become the event that steals a person's freedom overnight. Once balance is lost, the world itself becomes dangerous: sidewalks, stairs, even getting out of bed. And yet, the miracle is that balance can be rebuilt. Even after 70. Simple daily exercises, standing on one leg for brief moments, walking heel to toe along a straight line, practicing Tai Chi, all work like medicine for the nervous system, retraining the brain and body to stay synchronized. The earlier you begin, the more powerfully you defend yourself against the silent erosion. But balance is only the beginning. Next comes grip strength. You may not realize it, but your hands are windows into your entire muscular system. I've shaken thousands of hands in my career, and each one told me a private story. A firm handshake reveals not just strong fingers, but strong shoulders, stable joints, healthy circulation, and a nervous system that still fires sharply. But a weak or declining grip when my patients struggled to open a jar, to carry groceries, or even to hold my hand, often pointed to a body quietly surrendering its muscle mass and resilience. Robert, for example, was 78 but carried himself like a man decades younger. His handshake was steady, his forearms strong from years of light weightlifting and daily activity. Then there was Walter, also 78, who admitted with some embarrassment that he struggled now with simple tasks, like twisting open water bottles or lifting heavier grocery bags. What Walter dismissed as normal aging was, in truth, the early erosion of his strength, an erosion that would leave him increasingly vulnerable to falls, fractures, hospital stays, and dependency. The frightening part is that muscle loss happens faster than most people realize. After 60, many people lose up to 3% of their muscle mass each year if they're not actively fighting against it. And as the muscles shrink, so does a person's stability, independence, and ultimately, their longevity. But as with balance, there is hope. I always encourage my patients to treat their grip like a muscle worth saving, squeezing a tennis ball each day, using hand grippers, lifting light free weights under supervision. These simple exercises not only preserve hand strength, but send protective signals to the entire body, preserving muscle mass, circulation, and confidence. Finally, let's speak about one of my most reliable predictors of long life: walking speed. Yes, how fast you walk may reveal more about your remaining years than your cholesterol numbers or blood pressure ever could. In every hospital ward I've worked, I could often tell which patients would recover and which ones were fading simply by observing how they moved down the hall. Fast, fluid walkers tended to thrive. Those who moved slowly, cautiously, pausing with every few steps, were often battling far deeper struggles. Take Joe, 75 years old, who walked daily around his neighborhood in Boston, moving briskly, climbing stairs without assistance, confidently crossing busy intersections without hesitation. His body still cooperated fully with his mind, allowing him to live independently, safely, and socially active. Then there was Frank, also 75, who came to me after realizing he was falling behind his friends on simple strolls. He needed to stop frequently, sometimes struggling to maintain his balance even on flat ground. His world was quietly shrinking, and with it, his freedom. Walking speed is not a trivial matter. It reflects not only leg strength, but heart health, lung capacity, neurological sharpness, and joint flexibility. Slowing down is often the body's cry for help, a signal that multiple systems are losing coordination. And once walking becomes fragile, so too does the ability to engage with life itself. But here too is the path forward. You can reclaim your steps. I've watched men and women regain strength simply by prioritizing daily movement, short walks that gradually grow longer, light weights that strengthen the legs, exercises that restore posture and flexibility. The earlier you start, the more ground you can reclaim before the decline becomes irreversible. As I've told many patients before you, these physical signs are not fate. They are invitations to take control of what remains within your grasp. Your balance, your grip, your gait, these are the frontline defenders of your independence. Ignore them, and the road narrows quickly. Strengthen them, and the years ahead can be filled with vitality rather than fragility. In the next part of our journey, I will guide you even deeper into the internal signals your body sends long before you feel sick. These invisible forces often hold the keys to whether you will thrive or struggle in your later years. Stay with me because what comes next may change how you think about your own aging forever. As we journey further, allow me to open a door that very few ever walk through until it's too late. You see, while the body's physical signs, the balance, the grip, the pace are visible to the eye, there are far more dangerous signals that operate quietly within, slipping beneath the surface of awareness like whispers in a crowded room. These internal signals rarely announce themselves with pain or urgency. Instead, they erode you silently, day by day, stealing not only years from your life, but life from your years. Throughout my long years in medicine, I learned to watch for these subtler markers. And I'll begin with the one that often surprises people most: sleep. You might think of sleep as simply the hours you spend resting, but I've come to see it as one of the most sacred and powerful healers your body has. While you sleep, your brain doesn't merely shut down, it repairs. It organizes, it clears toxins that, if left unchecked, contribute to devastating conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia. Your immune system recharges, your hormones balance, and your cardiovascular system gets a chance to reset. But tragically, sleep is often one of the first internal systems to falter as we age, and too many dismiss its decline as harmless. In my practice, I saw countless patients like Sam and Graham. Sam, at 75, maintained a steady bedtime, slept deeply for 7 uninterrupted hours, and woke with energy in his step and clarity in his mind. His sleep protected him, like a quiet guardian standing watch through the night. Then there was Graham, also 75, who visited me complaining of daytime fatigue, memory slips, and a growing sense of mental fog. As we talked, he confessed to restless nights, frequent awakenings, and long hours of staring at the ceiling while his mind spun with worry. For men and women like Graham, the damage was already underway. Studies have shown that fragmented, poor-quality sleep increases the risk of cognitive decline, heart disease, high blood pressure, and weakened immunity. But because the consequences unfold so slowly, many fail to connect their exhaustion with the deeper damage being done inside. A tired brain is not simply an inconvenience, it is a vulnerable brain, one that cannot fight off disease, cannot maintain emotional stability, and cannot serve you well in the battles that lie ahead. But just as with your balance and strength, sleep is something that can be healed if you take it seriously. I've taught many of my patients to respect the sanctity of their nighttime hours, to dim the lights in the evening, to avoid the harsh glow of screens, to maintain a regular bedtime, to avoid heavy meals late at night. Even simple habits like stepping outside for morning sunlight can help reset your natural rhythm, allowing your body to prepare for deep, restorative rest. Those who listen to these lessons often find that their minds sharpen again. Their energy returns and their resilience strengthens in ways they never imagined possible. Now, let me turn to another internal signal that far too many dismiss as a minor nuisance: appetite. In the decades I spent with patients, I learned that when an older adult begins to lose their desire for food, it is rarely an accident. A declining appetite, especially after 70, is often a quiet but powerful warning sign that multiple systems may be faltering together. I recall Margaret and Susan, both 74. Margaret still found joy in preparing her meals, savoring the colors and textures of fresh vegetables, enjoying lean proteins, maintaining a steady weight. She approached food not simply as fuel, but as a daily practice of care. Meanwhile, Susan entered my office after having lost 12 pounds without trying. She admitted to skipping meals, feeling full quickly, and increasingly leaning on processed foods out of convenience. She dismissed her shrinking appetite as just part of aging, but I knew better. A diminished appetite often points to deeper troubles: weakening digestive efficiency, changes in hormonal balance, nutrient malabsorption, or even early cognitive decline. As the appetite fades, so does the intake of vital nutrients, leading to muscle loss, bone weakness, impaired immune response, and eventually frailty that leaves a person vulnerable to falls, infections, and long recoveries that may never fully restore them. What makes this decline so dangerous is how insidious it is. Weight loss feels less alarming than chest pain. Skipped meals feel less threatening than a stroke. But make no mistake, when the body stops asking for nourishment, it's often because it is quietly losing its ability to process what it needs to survive. This is why I always urged my patients to treat every meal as an opportunity for defense. Not indulgence, but defense. Nutrient-rich foods, lean proteins to maintain muscle mass, fiber to support digestion, healthy fats to protect the brain, and ample hydration become not merely choices, but weapons in the fight for vitality. And for those struggling with appetite, small strategies such as frequent smaller meals, protein-rich snacks, or even supervised nutritional supplementation can restore strength before the decline takes hold completely. As you listen to me now, you may already feel some of these internal signals stirring within your own experience. Perhaps your sleep has grown restless. Perhaps your appetite has changed. Perhaps you've excused these shifts as just getting older. I beg you, don't make that mistake. The body whispers before it screams. And if you train yourself to listen to these whispers now, you may prevent the screams that would otherwise follow. In the next part of this journey, I will lead you into a territory that most people neglect entirely: the invisible, emotional forces that govern how gracefully or painfully we age, because your longevity is not determined by physical health alone. Your mind, your emotions, your very capacity to handle life's burdens can determine whether you flourish or fade. Stay with me. The truths ahead may change how you fight for your life. Now we come to a realm I have always called the silent battlefield of aging, not the muscles or the bones, not the sleep or the appetite, but the invisible forces that determine whether a person will quietly break under the weight of life or rise again with resilience even in their later years. I've seen this battlefield destroy the strongest bodies and extend the lives of those who were once physically weak. It is here where aging becomes far more than biology. It becomes a test of the mind and the heart. I want to speak first about a ruthless killer that operates in the shadows: chronic stress. I've watched stress dismantle the lives of people far faster than any disease ever could. It poisons the bloodstream with cortisol. It keeps the heart beating too fast for too long. It floods the body with inflammation that spreads like wildfire through the organs, joints, and brain tissue. In the quiet corners of my clinic, I've seen its toll reflected in the faces of countless patients. Not just worried brows, but accelerated aging written into their skin, their posture, their breath. John and Richard were two such men who will forever remain vivid in my memory. Both were 76, both facing the same kinds of late-life challenges: unpredictable finances, declining health of spouses, adult children struggling with their own lives. But the way they carried their burdens could not have been more different. John had learned, through years of discipline, how to meet the chaos of life with steadiness. He practiced breathing exercises, attended weekly church groups, walked daily with friends, and never allowed his mind to spiral too far into what he could not control. Richard, on the other hand, carried his worries like stones in his pockets, weighing him down with every step. Small problems festered into large ones in his mind. He replayed worst-case scenarios late into the night. His blood pressure crept higher, his sleep grew fragmented, his appetite faded. The truth is this: stress that remains unresolved is not simply a state of mind. It is a physical disease, one that accelerates aging at every level of the body. Over time, I watched Richard's world shrink. He grew more fatigued, more irritable, more dependent on medications to manage his swelling list of symptoms. His resilience faded like embers burning out in the cold. John, meanwhile, remained sharper, more energetic, more socially engaged, even though his life circumstances were no easier. The damage of stress lies in its chronic nature, the way it turns every hour of worry into a biochemical storm inside your own body. Elevated cortisol levels trigger inflammatory pathways that erode brain cells, stiffen blood vessels, weaken immune defenses, and shorten the very telomeres that protect your DNA. This is why you'll often hear stories of seemingly healthy people who suddenly suffer heart attacks or strokes triggered by long periods of emotional turmoil. Their bodies were not prepared for the price of their inner unrest. And yet, like everything I've spoken of so far, there is a path forward. Stress management is not an abstract luxury. It is a medical necessity. I have counseled patients to develop rituals of release, simple daily disciplines that teach the nervous system to retreat from the battlefield. Deep breathing, prayer or meditation, gentle walks in nature, journaling, talking openly with trusted friends. Even laughter, that simple act of surrendering to joy, has measurable effects on reducing blood pressure and regulating stress hormones. But there is another invisible force that may be even more powerful than stress. One that shapes how long you live, even if your body is still strong and your mind still sharp. That force is human connection. I cannot begin to count how many times I have watched patients decline not because of disease, but because of isolation. Loneliness, especially after 70, is far more dangerous than most people realize. It carries the same risk of early death as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It weakens the immune system, triggers depression, and quietly dismantles both physical and cognitive resilience. I remember two women who embodied this reality more clearly than any textbook ever could. Eleanor was 78, a widow for many years, but she remained deeply connected to her community. She attended a local book club every Tuesday, volunteered at a children's reading program, regularly visited friends for coffee, and maintained weekly dinners with her grandchildren. The light in her eyes was unmistakable. She felt needed, valued, and seen. Barbara, by contrast, had slowly withdrawn after her husband passed. Friends drifted away. Family grew distant. Days turned into months spent largely alone, the silence in her home growing heavier with each season. When she first came to see me, I could already see the toll. Her posture hunched, her voice quieter, her spirit dulled. Over time, her health began to unravel in ways no medicine could reverse. Her immune system weakened. Her sleep deteriorated. She began to forget appointments, misplace items, and withdraw even further into herself. Human beings were not designed to age in solitude. Our nervous systems are wired for connection. The simple act of sitting with others, of sharing laughter, of receiving a gentle touch or hearing a familiar voice. These are not emotional luxuries, they are physiological needs. They protect the brain against cognitive decline. They modulate stress hormones. They regulate the heart and blood pressure. They remind the body that it still belongs to something larger than itself. For my patients who struggled with loneliness, I always prescribed connection with the same seriousness as any medication. Join a group. Rekindle old friendships. Volunteer. Pick up the phone. It does not require a large circle of people, but it requires a genuine circle. One that sees you, values you, and allows you to feel part of life's ongoing rhythm. Now, as you reflect on these invisible forces, the storm of chronic stress and the hollow ache of isolation, I hope you begin to see what I have seen through these long years of practice. Aging is never simply a matter of biology. It is a negotiation between the body and the soul, between the external and internal, between the seen and the unseen. In the next part of our journey, we will gather all these truths together. We will confront the final question that hangs over each of us after 70. Knowing these signs, what can you do right now to reclaim your strength, extend your years, and live with dignity, purpose, and joy in the time you have left? The most important part is still ahead. I have walked you through many truths today. We've explored the body's physical signs, its internal whispers, and the invisible forces that quietly shape the years you have left. And now, as we arrive at the heart of this conversation, I must tell you something I've learned not from textbooks, but from the countless lives that passed through my hands over decades of practice. Your future is not written, it never has been. It remains, even now, in your hands. I've seen patients in their 70s who arrived already defeated, convinced that their best years were behind them, that decline was inevitable, that their only job now was to wait for what came next. And I've seen others, often with more serious medical histories, who refused that surrender. They came to me with questions, with fire still burning behind their eyes, determined to fight for every step, every breath, every sunrise. And more often than not, it was not the severity of their diagnosis that decided their future. It was the posture of their heart. I remember vividly a man named Harold. At 72, Harold had already faced 2 heart procedures, minor mobility issues, and a long history of hypertension. On paper, his prospects looked average at best. But Harold was relentless. Every morning, long before the sun had climbed over the trees, he was out walking his neighborhood, rain or shine. He kept a log of his daily steps, monitored his sleep patterns, adjusted his diet, and stayed fiercely engaged with his community. More importantly, he refused to allow fear to steal the joy from his days. He had built his own defense against decline, brick by brick, with simple, consistent choices. The result? Harold remained vibrant well into his 80s, living independently, traveling, and seeing his grandchildren grow in ways many doctors might not have predicted. And then there was Evelyn. She came to me at 70, already exhausted, overwhelmed by years of neglecting herself, having given everything to others. She had allowed small problems to become large ones, dismissing signs of weakness, explaining away fatigue, ignoring changes in her appetite and mood. When I first met her, she carried the heavy weight of regret, asking, "Is it too late, doctor?" My answer was the same I have given to so many before and after her. It is never too late to begin again. The moment you decide to listen to your body's signals, to honor them, to respond to them with action, is the moment your future begins to shift. You see, the great tragedy of aging is not that the body changes. That is inevitable. The tragedy is how many people stop listening, how many surrender the fight before the battle is truly lost. They wait for the crisis, the fall, the heart attack, the diagnosis that could have been softened, delayed, or even prevented had they acted earlier. The truth is this: longevity does not come from one grand gesture. It comes from 1,000 small daily decisions. The choice to rise and walk even when your legs feel stiff. The choice to reach for nourishing foods when processed ones seem easier. The choice to breathe deeply and release anxiety rather than feeding it with worry. The choice to pick up the phone, to meet a friend for coffee, to open your life to connection rather than retreat into silence. Science has made this clear. The human body is astonishingly adaptable. Muscle can be rebuilt. Balance can be restored. Sleep can be improved. Appetite can be nurtured. The nervous system can relearn calm. The brain can form new connections even in advanced age. But only if you choose to engage. Too many people believe their destiny is locked inside their genetics. I've lost count of how many times I've heard someone say, "My father died young. My mother had cancer. It's in my blood." And yes, genetics lay the foundation. But the walls and roof you build upon that foundation are entirely your doing. Research consistently shows that lifestyle choices account for far more of your aging trajectory than the hand you were dealt at birth. And here's the most powerful truth of all: you do not need perfection to extend your life. You do not need to run marathons, eat only superfoods, or meditate like a monk. You simply need to engage, to stay moving, to keep reaching for the simple disciplines that, over time, accumulate into resilience. It is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. In my final years of practice, I would often sit quietly with my patients and ask them one simple question: what kind of ending do you want? Not in some distant, philosophical sense, but in the very real, practical sense of what their final years might look like: independence or dependence, strength or fragility, connection or loneliness. And almost every person, no matter how old, would whisper the same hope: I just want to stay myself for as long as I can. And that, my friend, is still possible, even now, for you. You have heard the signs. You know the markers that whisper of decline: your balance, your strength, your pace, your sleep, your appetite, your resilience to stress, your connections to others. Each one is a conversation your body is having with you every single day. The question is, will you listen? I have devoted this chapter of my life in retirement to sharing these truths because I know how many never hear them in time. And I want to leave you today not with fear, but with hope. Because hope, rooted in action, is the most powerful medicine I've ever prescribed. If you have stayed with me through this entire journey, then you have already taken your first step. The next steps belong to you alone. Start walking. Start strengthening. Start sleeping better. Start eating with intention. Start managing the storms inside your mind. Start opening your life again to those around you. Your future is not carved in stone. It is written, one small choice at a time, by your own hands. And I am here, still with you, as long as I can be, to remind you that you are never too old to begin again. As I sit here now, in the quieter season of my life, reflecting on the decades I spent guiding patients through the mysteries of aging, one truth rises above all others. Aging is not a passive experience. It is not something that simply happens to you while you sit by, helpless. Aging is a dialogue between your body, your mind, your habits, and your spirit that continues to evolve every single day you are alive. And while none of us can halt the passing of years, each of us holds far more influence over how we age than we often realize. Throughout our journey together, we have explored 7 critical signals: the balance in your legs, the strength in your hands, the speed of your steps, the depth of your sleep, the sharpness of your appetite, the weight of your stress, and the warmth of your connections to others. Each of these signs speaks to a simple but profound truth. Life does not suddenly break. It quietly erodes. And if we fail to listen to these early whispers, we risk waking up one day to find that vital pieces of ourselves have slipped away unnoticed. But here lies the beautiful, empowering truth. You can intervene. You can respond. You can reclaim what seems to be slipping. The human body is astonishing in its resilience when given the chance. Muscles can strengthen. Balance can return. Sleep can be restored. Joy in food can be renewed. Calm can replace anxiety. Loneliness can transform into belonging. And every one of these changes starts not with some complicated medical treatment, but with the simple, courageous decision to engage, to care enough about your future to act today. What I have witnessed time and again in my practice is that longevity, true longevity, is not merely the number of birthdays you celebrate. It is the quality of your days, the independence you preserve, the dignity you protect, and the joy you cultivate. Too many people wait for a crisis to wake them up: the fall, the hospitalization, the frightening diagnosis. But the wisest among us listen to the softer signals much earlier and make small, steady adjustments that carry them gracefully through their later years. The great lesson I hope you carry with you from this conversation is that you are never too old, and it is never too late. Whether you are 70 or 90, your body and mind still respond to movement, to discipline, to care, and to love. The small choices you make each day, to walk, to strengthen, to rest well, to eat with purpose, to breathe deeply, to connect with others, these are the quiet heroes of longevity. They build upon one another, slowly at first, but powerfully over time. So I ask you now, as one who has walked this path with so many before you, what will you choose? Will you surrender to the quiet erosion? Or will you rise, day after day, to fight for the life that still lies ahead of you? Now, I would love to hear your honest thoughts. Take a moment and share your answer in the comments below. Do you believe that small daily habits can truly change your future after 70? A yes. I believe small, consistent actions can make a huge difference. B. No. I feel like it's already too late for me. Please type A or B in the comment section and feel free to share your personal experience. Your perspective may inspire someone else who is reading. And if you found value in what I've shared today, I kindly invite you to subscribe to this channel. As an old doctor now in retirement, I continue to share these lessons not for profit, but to serve, to guide, and to give back the knowledge I've gathered over a lifetime. Your subscriptions and even the smallest donations help me keep producing these life-changing lessons for others who may not have anyone else to tell them these truths. Every bit of support gives me strength and motivation to continue creating more content that can help others live stronger, healthier lives. Thank you for staying with me until the end. May your path ahead be long, strong, and filled with purpose.